You online? Huh? Okay, that's it. I just wanted to do that cringe AF thing in celebration of the EU Citizens Initiative for Stop Killing Games having finally, well, not finally, it's passed for a while actually, but getting through the overdrive limit of all things. Pretty sure nobody really, well, certainly not Ross Scott expected, but all it took, all it took for this to happen, everybody, the only thing it took was making fun of pirate software and revealing what a rat he is. That is insane to me that that's literally like, that's what happened. That is just what happened. Is, you know, this was, I think, sitting at like 300,000 all before this started. And then all of a sudden, it hit 1 million. Well, I think it hit like 500K, then 700K. And I was like, ooh, it hit 9 million. July's about to start. Ooh, it hit 1 million. And then Ross is like, it's not over yet, boys. We're in for one more battle. And that battle seems to have succeeded, I guess. So there's one other thing before we start. We'll get to it again later, but I wanted to cover it now. So the Video Games Europe, which is ran by a lot of very different people. So this is actually from April, but I don't think I got to it last time. Released a statement on Stop Killing Games. We appreciate the passion of our community. However, the decision to discontinue online services is multifaceted. Sure. Never taken lightly and must be an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. Okay, yeah, that's reasonable. We understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws. I actually don't think that's the case. I think that's been violated many times. Private servers are not always a viable option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure player data, removing illegal content and combat unsafe community content, would not exist. Okay. That's fine. You know? For, like, you don't have to keep doing that. And would leave rights holders liable. Why? Why would it do that? Or in any case, that's up to them, isn't it? In addition, many titles are designed from the ground up to be online only. In effect, these proposals would curtail developer choice by making these games prohibitively expensive to create. And we welcome the opportunity to discuss our position with policymakers who have led the Citizens Initiative in the coming months. So that's good. That last statement exclusively. But this is kind of snaky, honestly. All things considered. Because also that Discord notification is on my end. Because this implies that the first sentence implies that the goal of Stop Killing Games is to keep online games online, which is not the case. And I do believe that the option is very often taken lightly, because the option is typically the game isn't making money, therefore shut it down. It's a very simple if-else statement, right? If making money, keep on, else destroy. And I agree that it should be kept an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. That is absolutely fair. You know, they should not be forced to keep an online game online, especially if they can't afford it. Nobody has ever insinuated, except for its detractors, that a game needs to be online supported in perpetuity. We understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, they give fair notice. I'm pretty sure this hasn't happened everywhere. I'm not certain that it happened with the crew. And I am pretty certain that this actually gets violated a lot. The issue with this being Video Games Europe is that this doesn't cover like the full scope. Oh, well, the icon is down here. Can you? It won't scroll. But like one, I'm not certain that a lot of European stuff has in the past. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. I'm mostly in the English-speaking world, and in the English-speaking world, we get a lot of games from Russia. Russia is like European, right? As much as the Europeans would hate to agree with that, there's a lot of Russian games that got shut down with like no announcement. There's a lot of like there's a lot of French games, especially from Ubisoft, that will get like shut down. I'm not sure about the UK. I know a lot of US games have. And so while this is like, oh, we make sure to give fair notice. One, I'm not sure that's even being followed by you, but two, we're hoping this legislation kind of gets a little farther, right? I'm an American. I didn't sign the fucking petition. Private servers are not always a viable option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure players' data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafe community content would not exist. One, why wouldn't it? Like, not every online game needs to have like what's the word? Like continuous security, I guess. You can have like checksums, right? Where you create a checksum with your local data, make sure your local data aligns with another checksum of another person, and that's how that works. And you can like falsify that, and sure there's ways around doing that. But that's fine, because essentially, like, in my mind, once you're done with a game online, you're done with the game. You're finished. Once you shut it down, the company who is operating it they're washing their hands of the whole situation. They're washing their hands of the game and the community around it. Not to mention that a lot of the communities around dead games do not exist or are too small for that to happen anyway. I think removing illegal content and combating unsafe community content, leaving rights holders liable, I think that's okay. I think that's fine for the rights holders to go after those people. There's like no case, I think, for that to not be the case. Because what I'm thinking of is like when Nintendo sent a notice to Gmod to take all the Pokemon out of the game. Sorry, my laptop is very loud. Trying to figure out what that noise was. And I just don't think that that's like a responsibility. Sure, it would leave rights holders like liable. That's not your problem anymore. That's their problem. Why do you care? Oh no. 10 people in a racing game from 20 years ago, thinking like 15, 20 years ahead in the future. 10 people are playing a racing game and they put a Coke ad in it and it makes the Coke ad say cock. Yeah, that's really a huge, huge deal that you need to be aware of. That rights holders would surely care about. It's not like the defacement of actual real life like board signs or whatever. Because you're washing your hands of it. That's a completely understandable situation. So I think this is entirely like deflection, I guess. Guys, what about the rights holders? What about the rights holders, guys? Like, what about the rights holders? Who cares? They have their rights. I mean, maybe it's for like racing games, for like something that says like maybe a studio has, they want Ferrari in the game, but they can't get the rights, so they call it Flamingo, and then a player mods it to say Ferrari again. Potentially. And then Ferrari gets mad about it, and they're like, Ubisoft, take it down. It's like, we can't. It's not our game. That's essentially what I think would happen. Is like, Ubisoft, you can't have Ferrari in the crew. And it's like, well, we're not the owners of the crew anymore. We haven't made it. That crew is not us, you know? It's super weird. It's super odd to even make this argument. In addition, many titles are designed to be ground online only. That's not necessarily true. I mean, definitely from like, I'm trying to think of a game that wouldn't work if it was online, and primarily it's like exclusively end game MMO content, because the rest is not, like 90% of the rest is completely soloable. And like the crew is just an easy example, right? You could just have bots, and I'm pretty sure the game does have bots already set up, because it's really hard to test stuff without bots. In effect, these proposals would curtail developer choice by making online games prohibitively expensive to create. This feels like something written by like PR from a CEO and not from a developer, unless the developer is also like super corrupt, I guess. Because the vast majority of the time, video games are made offline first. Video games aren't made to be online exclusively. They're made to, like they're offline. They're played with bots. They're played over LAN. And they're not played through like the global Ubi servers. We welcome the opportunity to discuss our position with policymakers, and I sincerely hope that they do. So, with that out of the way, I'm going to get Forgive Me Father back up, because we're going to be playing Forgive Me Father while we watch some videos. Hello? There we go. So yeah, congrats to Stop Killing Games. Although at the end, this is going to be a little disjointed because we're going to be switching back and forth from SKG and, excuse me, PirateSoftWare. And we're taking this sequentially. So first, we have Slop News Network. This video did gangbusters. It got 1.7 million views from a 40k, not even at the time, I think it was like 20k subs, maybe less than that. YouTuber. So this guy is, I think he's a programmer. He definitely has a shitload of programming knowledge for somebody that isn't. And I can actually kind of sort of contribute because I am also a programmer. So this is Developer Explains PirateSoftWare Part 1, Job History and Development Hell. So we have a lot of videos. Primarily, we've got Slop News Network, Coding Jesus, and Ross Scott later on. So let's watch this video.
Alright, so I'm sure many of you have heard of Jason Thorhall, better known online as PirateSoftWare, due to all the surrounding drama related to Stop Killing Games. This video isn't about the Stop Killing Games drama. I do support the Stop Killing Games initiative, and anyone in the EU currently watching this should go and sign up to care about game preservation. This video is going to be a review of Jason's job history, game dev industry claims, coding ability, and his heartbound and champion of breakfast DRM solutions by me, a developer. I won't be touching on his hacking skills much in this video, since from what I found, all of his DEF CON wins were team efforts, and all of the stories related to hacking are just that, stories. Outside of his word, I generally can't find anything related to it. There isn't anything concrete or of substance in these stories for me to actually analyze and review. If anyone knows where he actually has hacking write-ups or knows the VODs where he actually does something related to hacking, let me know and I can do a separate video going through and reviewing it. Okay, with that out of the way, let's start with Jason's LinkedIn job history. So if we look at his LinkedIn, we can see his first recorded job experience
So he starts in January 2002. I wanted to double check something because uh so he would be 15 at this point, 14, because he was born in July of 1987. That doxing? You can just look up his age. Um, I think he puts his age out there. I mean, you could do the math. He could say his age. So he was a freelance security researcher when he was fucking 15, 14. So it's like, dude, what? Really? So I just like straight up don't believe this, especially because when I was a kid, although given I was like born a bit after him, I don't want to say the exact time. It was extremely difficult to even get an interning position at a company.
Experience is from 2002 to 2009, where he was a freelance security researcher and developer. In 2002, Jason would have been 15, and from what I found, he hasn't taken any program classes, so anything he knows at this point is largely self-taught. Another important thing is Jason actually had a job in 2004 that isn't listed here as a quality assurance intern at Blizzard.
I went to Blizzard.
So when he was 17, he worked as a Okay, dude, that has to be nepotism. That literally has to be nepotism. Wait, I didn't even think about that. How are you employed at Blizzard as a 17-year-old? Did they even they might have allowed it. Wait. Was that would have been just before or just after World of Warcraft came out, right? Wait, how do you do wait, I forgot. How do you do the fucking lantern in that? Okay, whatever.
Blizzard in 2004, and like this is kind of my whole career, right? My first job I got through nepotism, 100%. My dad worked at Blizzard for 23 years. He worked at Blizzard for 23 years, so I got a job there in 2004. I was shit. I was shit at this, and I realized I was shit.
Also, I think it's important that we talk about his dad for a second. Jason says his dad just worked at Blizzard, but that's grossly understating his dad's role and history at Blizzard. Jason's dad is Joey Ray Hall, and from a Reddit AMA his dad held, we can see the following. Joey Ray joined Silicon and Synapses in 1990.
Okay, my name is Joey Ray Hall, and I worked at Blizzard for over 23 years, from 91 to 2014. I left last year, so that's probably this was probably in 2016, just about. And have spent the last 12 months working on putting together my own gaming company with my partner Kevin. I know quite a bit about game dev, from SNES to PC. And I'm willing to help with any questions that new developers here may have. Ask me anything.
91. Now, you might be asking what's Silicon and Synapses and what does this have to do with Blizzard in his post? Well, in 1991, Blizzard didn't exist yet. Silicon and Synapses was the original company name, and 1991 was the year it was founded. Joey Ray joined Blizzard before it was Blizzard, and when he joined, there were less than 10 people in total at the company. He wasn't some random Blizzard employee. He was one of the earliest hires at the company. Over his 23 years, he did all sorts of work. And
he is essentially a founder. I don't know if he would be like directly a founder, but he is like one of the most important people at Blizzard. I actually think because of the department distance, Joey Ray Hall is actually one of the few people not mentioned, but is also still incredibly important to the book I referenced. Wait, the World of Warcraft diary. Oh, it's F. F is the lantern button.
It was the one that founded the cinematic team, led the machinima team, the video and post-production team, and the esports live broadcast team, plus being responsible for all the video content for every BlizzCon between 2005 to 2014.
So that's fucking insane to be responsible for that many videos. And you have to remember, this was like, okay. Wait, we might watch it. Wait, let me get it up. So whenever we're looking at this, whenever you're thinking about, oh, he made Blizzard videos, what does that mean? No, you might be like, oh, that's not super important. So from 2005, so let's look up a trailer. So he was probably one of the most important people on like, oh wait, this might be like copyrighted as fuck. Look how fucking nice this looks. Look how awesome and epic this fucking is. There's a cock gun. It's not in motion, so it's not great. But this was like fucking iconic at the time. So I just want to remind people that this guy actually did like an insane amount of work and was actually insanely good at it. There's not that many people out there like that.
Plus, he led the team that made the famous South Park World of Warcraft episode and the inspiration for the He Who Has No Life character. Joey Ray was the director of cinematics at Blizzard. He wasn't some low-level employee that worked at the company. He was pretty high up in the chain. Anyways, back to Jason.
The next 5 years, I left Blizzard. I did not reapply, and I went and worked on my own. I did freelance. I did freelance for everything. So I actually weren't into Second Life, which is a 3D Worlds game.
When he says that, I'm actually not certain what he's talking about here, about doing freelance. Well, I guess he's explaining it right now, but I'm pretty certain that this is also the time period where he spent a shitload of time on EVE Online and Second Life, and so his describing of his like what he was doing here is, I don't think 100% accurate.
If you've never played it before, they have a language in it called Linden scripting language, and I made games in there.
And like you might be like, oh, you know, he's playing it on the side. No, he was no-lifing a lot of these. He was like a weird like realtor troll in both of these games, and he did like a ton of shit in these where it I would think qualifies as a job with how much time he was putting into it.
I learned how to do 3D modeling. I learned how to do texture work. I learned how to do scripting. I learned how to engage with people that were playing my games. I learned how to do network model stuff. I learned how to do server-related stuff. I did this for 5 whole years.
So Jason's Second Life period of time.
So yeah, he got a ton of experience from doing that, but I don't think it's 100% accurate.
Time is a huge rabbit hole, and there's like 5 or 6 different controversies surrounding his time in Second Life. This video isn't about his controversies and allegations, so I'm going to skip over most of it. The only small parts we care about are related to coding. During his Second Life playing time, he played a character known as Moldavius Fig Tree and started a company called Dark Sphere Creations. He claims he did game programming with the Linden scripting language, the programming language of Second Life, and made some small games and some user-generated content for Second Life. While digging into this, I didn't find any proof he coded any games. What Dark Sphere Creations and his company was actually doing at the time was creating not safe for work adult furry avatars and selling them. Basically, his friend Wingless Emote, another Second Life player, would do the art and modeling for the furry avatars, and Jason would do some coding on top. What kind of coding he did on top of these avatars isn't exactly clear. Then they would sell the avatar.
It's pretty likely to my like little understanding of Second Life that his scripting, he probably did like actual scripting a couple of times, but for the most part he was likely either using templates or making his own templates in order to, you know, like just make the process go faster and sell more furry fluid avatar models.
And eventually the business was making somewhere around $10,000 a month, primarily due to selling these avatars. There's some other controversy where it alludes to Jason trying to do dev work on Linden Labs projects and other game worlds, but I can't find any solid proof, just random posts and accusations. So in summary, there doesn't seem to be any proof he did any kind of game development or hacking during this period of time. Let's get back to Jason.
Then I came back to Blizzard in 2009 and I applied, not having his help in any way. I got the job.
Okay, the timeline here starts matching.
Okay, well, if it's 2009, his name was probably still very, like, recognizable, I imagine? Because, like, it's like Hall. Oh, we know Hall. He's the fucking guy who did all the shit. Yeah, get his son in here. He probably knows a lot of stuff. And this is, yeah, this is still when his dad worked there. I mean, fucking Slop News is gonna explain all of it anyway, but...
up with his LinkedIn. After his little detour with Dark Sphere Creations and working for himself, Jason now has an actual full-time job at Blizzard in 2009. This is his first official full-time job at Blizzard, and he is once again a quality assurance analyst. Jason claims he got into the company on his own merits this time, but I find that a bit hard to believe at face value. In 2004, he said he was terrible at his QA role, and that's why he quit. I searched to see if he studied anything IT related in high school or in college or during the time gap, and I found this from his subreddit. Jason did spend some time in college studying to be an entomologist. scientist with a specialization in ants. He dropped out of college without ever finishing his studies, and it doesn't.
He was gonna be an ant scientist? Dude, I watched this video, I think, like 2 or 3 times, especially through, like, other people reacting to it. I did not realize he was trying to be an entomologist.
Seem like he ever took any IT related courses during this time here. During that 5-year gap between 2004 and 2009, the only experience he said in the clip from earlier was his Second Life programming, and well, that wasn't exactly quality assurance or hacking or game development work. Plus, while applying in 2009, on his resume he would probably have had, or Blizzard itself would have had, a record he worked there previously as a QA, so that would make applying a second time for a similar position easier.
So, okay, that is technically true, but Blizzard had a very chaotic time after World of Warcraft. So while he may have had a record there, I can't be 100% certain of that.
His dad, once again, was a pretty high person in the company, and some people might remember Jason being Joey Ray's son from before. It's not impossible he got in on his own merits, just a bit hard to believe considering he doesn't have experience with any real program languages at this point, and he doesn't have any degrees or certificates. Okay, back to his LinkedIn and his job. So he held the role for 3 years and 2 months, and once again, this was his quality assurance role. One thing Jason often does is he claims all QA are developers. First, as someone that has worked QA myself, this isn't true. I'm not saying QA aren't important, but the majority of QA generally are non-technical, and only a small portion are. At most of the places I worked at, QA generally has no coding ability. And
did I just soft lock myself? I think I fucking soft locked myself. Yeah, so this is very true. I have a couple of friends, or well, they're not friends anymore just because I haven't talked to them in like years at this point. But I had friends in college who became QA testers. One for Rockstar and one for somewhere else I don't know. I don't remember. And yeah, they are not devs. They do have technical knowledge because I went through a computer science course with them. But to be called that is like very, like, that is not the average. Hello? For the most part, you're looking at people who are like have no experience in game dev and they're like trying to break in. That does happen a lot. But the most common case is not for people to be devs.
Are tasked with doing manual regression testing. Basically, they get a series of test cases they need to go through, and each test case has a written
roach milk. Yeah, it's roachalicious tonight. I can get the blue key. This area is so fucking confusing. Yeah, I'm coming back, you know, for my vacation. I had a decent time. Played a shitload of games there, and I'm generally having a blast with the Pirate Software stuff, especially the coding stuff, because that's stuff that I can actually like do, like I can understand and explain it. I think a little bit more than a lot of other people. Like you know, I watched Chud watch this stuff, and he was like he needed to have stuff explained to him. I think I could help laymanize it a lot.
out set of instructions they just follow. If something doesn't match the case steps, then a bug is filed and actual developers are tasked with addressing it. So I personally wouldn't call his 3 years at this position game development experience. And if we look at the bullet points he has on his LinkedIn, besides one line, namely the design and create an automated system, there's nothing here that even remotely implies he was coding or doing any kind of development. I'm making this point since Jason often claims he was a game developer at Blizzard for 7 years, but his first 3.5 years didn't include any developer roles.
Oh,
also,
wow.
To address his if QA didn't do their jobs, games wouldn't be released argument, most games have music. If a musician doesn't complete the OST, a game can't be released. Does that mean they're now developers too? Just because you say something confidently in a deep voice doesn't make it true.
So there's another aspect of that, and that's like, yeah, games get released without proper QA all the fucking time. And it might not be like the best game ever, but you can still have like inherently good design, but like shitty bugs in it. That happens That happens all the fucking time. Same thing with music. You can have a game with like shitty music and it still be a really good game. Or bad art or anything like that. Old hat from the community. There was definitely a lot going on before the WoW stuff. Yeah. There was the Second Life stuff, the I always like have trouble with, like, I have to think about its name before I say it. There was the EVE Online stuff. There was a lot in this time period. Ready? There.
Moving on to his next role, we have quality assurance hacks. Here he mentions he did some forensic analysis and detected threats. Also, something I'd like to note, all of his game projects listed here were coded using primarily the C++ programming language. This is a low-level programming language.
That is funny that he's doing, well, that he's like gloats about having a lot of like experience at Blizzard and doesn't know how to use like the Blizzard standing programming language.
Be important a bit later in the video. As for the role, again, I wouldn't call this game development experience. This is more related to security work than game development itself. And from the bullet points, it doesn't seem like Jason was doing much coding. His next role for 6 months was test engineer. My opinions are pretty much the same as the previous role he held. Moving on, we have
Lesser known was how he treated his players on his Minecraft server. I didn't know he had a Minecraft. Well, I knew about, what is it called, like Block World or something? Where he's dude, this is so fucked up to me. Maybe I should pull it up. Pirate Software, instead of fucking working on Heartbound, he's now working on a mod for Minecraft. Pirate Software block game. That's what it's called. Do we have a short we can watch? Probably not. I provably had the most hours logged on it. Oh my god. Do you have like experience with like talking to Pirate Software?
Block game server. Who doesn't know what block game is? It's for literally everything. The one that we built.
Dude,
I was like,
this is
yes,
insane.
Okay. And then if you go and look at this too, all of the professions actually have their own set bonuses.
It seems
too.
like he's just making like an actual like RPG inside of inside Minecraft. Oh, it says it here. Thor goes into detail about his MMO created using Minecraft. He talks about progress and details and plans for the future. You can gain XP, sit on Mount Coin, delve into adventures, dungeons, or build an empire with friends. This is insane that he's just decided to do this while he has so much on his plate that he ought other be doing. That's another thing. Like, how is he fucking like managing all of this shit? I don't get it. Like, how does he have fucking block game and, well, Kick was very far behind. How does he have like block game, his ferret rescue, Heartbound? I think he's married, conventions, and everything else. Like, how is he doing this? I mean, I guess the answer is that he isn't. He promotes his, so like Heartbound is like dead, right? He programs in it like once a month essentially, except for when people get on his ass. Yeah, started slipping when he takes suggestions from his Twitch stream live. Oh my god. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. His ferret rescue is not even really operated by him. It's more so operated by his partner. Jake is the Java dev on the server. He mostly does config changes. Oh my god. Okay. So no way. So he's literally a delegator, and he promotes himself as if he's like the main person doing shit. That's crazy. He literally delegates everything in his life to someone else and promotes himself as if he's the king of that thing. Except for Heartbound, which he hasn't delegated, but it's like not done, and it's kind of bad. I will be playing Heartbound at some point. because it seemed like a good idea at the time, but I also am extremely late to the party. But I probably will play it tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next stream. And he has another project that I can't put my finger on right now. But it seems like he's just like letting all these other stuff either die or get worked on by someone else, and he's just streaming Dune Awakening all the time. Doesn't send some tickets in when he failed to understand how a config worked. Oh my god. Dude, he's actually insane.
The next role,
he is actually like he needs help, but with his life, not just for somebody else to take another project for him to take credit for. Jesus Christ.
Security engineer for 11 months.
He was the like brand manager for off-brand games that he started with Ludwig. That's what I was trying to remember. And honestly, I think that even too was that when he like quit that, I think he was like taken off of that. Maybe not by Ludwig, maybe by somebody at Off-Brand Games, but from Off-Brand Games mostly supporting the Stop Killing Games initiative and him not. I imagine that he was taken off of it. Was so heated when I left the server, I started building my own, inspired by it. Nice. That's really cool.
This one is interesting. Since the bullet points here notes he managed web application security, for those that don't know what web applications are, it means he was working on websites and not games. There's no mention of programming here or what tools and languages he used. But regardless, this is without a doubt a non-game development role. And
so people probably don't remember at the time. Unless he was working on the Blizzard forums, all of their other websites were kind of shit. And that's why they eventually just like off-ended the Blizzard forums into their actual like account process, like from 2010 to 2015. Maybe he did that because it does say that he's like towards the latter end of that, but I don't know.
Doesn't have any overlap with game development. Okay, next up, he moves to another security engineer role for 3 months. Again, same opinions as his last job. Now, his last role at Blizzard was a red team member. Red team is a common IT term that just means someone inside the company that attempts to hack into their systems, either digital or physical. So Red Hat's basically trying to make hacks and show how they got access. So these vulnerabilities and issues can be addressed before real hackers can abuse them. Now, while Red Hat is offensive security and hacking, it doesn't always mean you're programming like you see with those green terminals and picks. If we look at the bullet points Jason has listed, we can see he did exploiting physical access controls and social engineering operations. Social engineering is actually one of the most common ways hackers gain access to systems, and it doesn't have to involve any programming at all. So
yeah, so programmers will be totally aware, but for people who don't, this is almost always like whenever you see in like a movie or a television show, you'll see like oh no, I just played Resident Evil. Ada Wong does it, where she like slips in a USB into a computer, and she just like walks up to it, and it's like already logged in. That's like a literal like real risk that people have to watch out for, is people just slipping a USB by while nobody's watching. And there's like lots of other stuff like being a friend, or like I think the joke one on the internet is right now is like or not right now, but well, a few months ago was like the Chinese spy trying to get with me just to get into this security system, stuff like that. That's all like social manipulation, which is, yeah, it's a very it's the easiest thing to do, especially for like nerdy programmers who don't talk to people that much. Don't have any evidence, but wonder if his government contract ended early due to not getting a Security Plus cert. Maybe. Especially for a government contract, that is probably pretty important. I don't actually have any of those certs because I... do I blame it on the easy thing or not? Oh god. I just had a lot of trouble with it, and a lot of stuff didn't seem relevant whenever I was trying to get like a CompTIA, not Security Plus. Is it just like Programming Plus? I don't remember what it was. Oh, okay. That was a completely nonsensical mission.
Avoided going that deep even when I was a
So I don't think you need one, but especially on like a government contract, holy shit, you absolutely need one. You need to learn about like fucking honeypots. You need to learn about like social manipulation, or just like man in the middle attacks. You need to learn about all that shit. Especially on something like, oh god, what the fuck is that? Especially on something high ranking as like, he talked about like going on nuclear fucking reactors. Like, holy shit, dude. You are not convincing me you could like properly be a security man on a nuclear reactor without like one of the most basic certifications. Unless he has like a shitload of experience doing the same thing. Yeah, that's like fucked up. Had to get one, barely passed on first attempt. Most government IT jobs require it. I'm lucky to be a contractor and not an official government employee. Oh, I'm giving away too much data. I'm giving away too much information. No. So I don't need one. It is highly recommended, and I'm my plan is basically, if none of my hobbies turn out to make money this year, I'm gonna go for like a super cert style.
Social engineering attacks are something like the following situation. Let's say Jason in this example is a social engineer and his target is a fellow Blizzard employee with access to the game servers. He could call them or email them from a legitimate Blizzard phone number or email and say he needs their account credentials. Normally, you would never share live in production account credentials, even if someone from your own company. But let's say Jason manages to convince the employee to hand the credentials over. Now Jason has a way to log into the system he shouldn't have access to. This is a social engineering
I'll let him
attack.
finish
It's
the
not
scenario.
technical hacking like most people think of. It's generally just being convincing enough and getting employees to hand over info or access they shouldn't be giving out. All right, with all of that and with all those jobs.
Yeah, so another thing is that social engineering from inside the company, social engineering Red Hat is often like one of the least reliable things, and it's also why like the security difficulties around it is some of the most difficult, because you're a Red Hat hacker inside a company full of people who already know you. So whenever you get like reliable data, or sorry, you can't get that much reliable data because you're like, oh, I'm calling from an inside phone line. I'm talking to you in my Blizzard friend voice, stuff like that. And that can still be helpful because there are like inside agents somewhat often. But that's also like unreliable when you're dealing with like, oh fuck, there's like, oh dude, there's like this really hot Japanese woman just strolled in and she's asking for my password and she'll go on a date with me if I give it to her. That stuff's harder to test for.
Jobs, we have 6 years and 6 months at Blizzard full-time for Jason, and if we include his time as a QA intern in 2004, we basically have his 7 years of experience at Blizzard accounted for. Judging by everything he has written here, it seems as though he's never held an actual game developer position and he's never done any game development directly. All of his roles at Blizzard were either QA, website security, or social engineering, basically his hacking. It doesn't seem like he's ever touched C++, which is the industry standard language to use when doing game development. But before I finish my thoughts on this, let's check out one more job after Blizzard.
You know what's so funny is he promotes Godot so much, and Godot is like a pseudo C++. It uses its own language on top of C++ to be easier. It's just super weird that he promotes it and doesn't like use it or know all that much about C++ at all.
After Blizzard, Jason worked at Amazon Games for 8 months as an automation engineer. Again, he wasn't a game developer here. He also didn't include much information under his bullet points. He did documentation of vulnerabilities and did some automation work with Python. This is the first officially recorded line that actually shows he did some programming. Python is what we call a high-level language, meaning the language is designed to be easy for humans to read and understand as well as to write. Python is a wonderful language, and I'm not throwing any shade at it, but Python is not a language used to create games. Technically, yes, you can code games in Python. Big drawback is it's an incredibly slow language. This is why the industry standard language for game development is C++, a low-level language that allows for incredible performance. The trade-off is it's a significantly more difficult language to work with. The reason I went through his job history so far and his programming language.
Yeah, so I would say that also in like the interest of like, I mean, it can be anything, right? It's like it's better, it runs faster, you're able to like once you learn it, I think C++ is actually easier to get some things done in than like Python. And also, I think Python has like an overemphasis on like libraries that do a lot of shit for you, which can be nice, but can also add more load onto whatever you're doing. And create more vulnerabilities, actually. That's the thing that I've had to deal with at work before. versus C++, where a lot of the stuff is more like self-learned. I think C++ probably has libraries. That's like a normal thing to have. But like, it seems just better overall in a lot of ways. I don't remember where I was going with that. But you can also make games in Python. Tons of games are made in Python, and there are even like a lot of, in particular, like visual novels are often made in Python, or like a Python-based thing. Like there's like RenPy. I think there's like iNovel. There's tons of shit. Interned with somebody who was somewhere in between sysadmin red team, mostly ran scams on the visual novel, virtual machine, and did phishing emails. Yeah. RenPy, yeah. That's cool. I don't know. I'm averse to security. I'm not like a security guy. I probably could do it if I had to, and honestly, that probably is my job path in the future if making a game doesn't work out for me. I think there is some like really cool stuff in security. I love working with like honeypot stuff. But yeah.
Which list is because Jason often claims he's a 20-year veteran of the game dev industry, and he was a game developer at Blizzard for 7 years. And he uses these claims to make himself seem like an authority and expert on game development and game-related topics, namely stop killing games. But from the looks of it, and in my opinion, it doesn't seem to me he's ever worked as an actual game developer within the industry, and it doesn't seem like.
So okay, this is something that is near and dear to my heart as a future game dev. Fucking Thor runs game jams like all the time. He runs like go make games or whatever. And that sucks. That really sucks, because that means that there's a ton of people who are getting their coding rated on whatever Thor's like scale is. Meaning that a lot of people are having like the wrong ideas about what is good or bad programming practice for video games because they're getting it from somebody who hasn't really worked on games that much.
Like he's ever done much program work in the industry either. I'm not throwing shade at any of the jobs listed here so far. I'm just trying to be absolutely clear that none of this, in my opinion, as someone that has worked on game engines and done game development, none of this counts as game development experience, with a lot of his roles having absolutely nothing to do with game development itself at all. To help make this clearer, here's another example to help everyone understand. It's like someone working at a hospital and doing payroll work, but because they're at a hospital, they claim to be a qualified doctor. It doesn't make any sense. Jason is making a giant leap with his "I'm a game developer for 7 years at Blizzard" claims. Anyways, let's go back to his LinkedIn and see what's next. Here we have that he was a cybersecurity specialist at Eagle Research Group. Based on Jason's stories, this should be when and where he was technically working for the government. There isn't a whole lot of information here, and with most of the bullet points being extremely generic. Since he claims this was government-related work, I think it's perfectly reasonable to...
There are, I guess plenty of people post game jams are not experienced. Yeah, totally. And that's not like wrong, but if you're trying specifically to impress the guy who knows nothing about coding, for video games at least. Well, from the sounds of it, not that much in general, really. He knows a bit, but not as much as he says he does. That probably can give like a bad impression or reinforce bad practices.
To assume he has NDAs, or he might not be able to give any specifics related to his work here.
And then when I did that, I went to the United States Department of Energy and I hacked power plants for the federal government.
Jason makes a lot of claims being a hacker and has told a lot of stories, but I could never find anything to back up his hacking claims. So far, the only thing I found was he did do some social engineering attacks at Blizzard. Now, some of you might know about his DEF CON stories and his Mr. Robot claims. I'll probably cover those in a separate video. The reason is all of his DEF CON wins were done in teams of 10 people, never solo. And for his other hacking claims, there's only stories to go off of. To keep this video from being too long and off topic, I'll save his hacking claims for its own thing. Okay, his next set of experience is at his own company, also named PirateSoftWare. But before we touch on that, let's talk about his more recent job experience at Off-Brand Games first, since that's a smaller topic to cover. Off-Brand Games is a game publishing company founded by Ludwig and Jason. I'm not entirely sure if Jason is a co-founder or not. Jason claims he isn't, but most posts and Ludwig's posts talking about the company seem to imply he is. Whether or not he's a co-founder isn't too important. Jason's role at at the company is director of strategy. From Jason's comments on the matter, he basically helps indie game developers negotiate contracts. Again, no direct game development work here. Also, fun fact.
Well, has that even ever happened? Has he actually ever even like hosted a contract or helped with a contract for any of these people? Badges are neat, but probably not much credential wise. Yeah, but they're still, yeah.
The very first game Off-Brand Games was co-publishing was Rivals of Nether 2. A game by the developer's own words was built this time around as a more live service game. Really makes you think why you might not want.
Yeah, they're like a nice little source of prestige for you, but they're not necessarily like actual representations of like skill or value.
Stop killing games to succeed. Also, don't throw any hate at Rivals of Nether 2. They actually do have an end-of-life plan to keep the game playable and alive for the community after it ends. The same goes for the rest of the off-brand published games. Don't throw them any hate. Okay, we're gonna take just one more detour before we get to the Pirate Software Company. Let's check out Jason's GitHub and see if there's any code for us to review there. For those of you that don't know what GitHub is, it's basically the site where developers store their code bases and development teams can work together on a code base. In Jason's case, his code bases would be tied to his games. Okay, so here's Jason's GitHub account. And he has 0 public projects on his account and 0 activity for the year of 2025. Okay, the no public repos doesn't exactly prove anything, and you don't need to have public repos, but most active developers do have something at least. Also, let me point out, GitHub does have an option of having private repos, which are code bases not viewable by users not part of the team. But GitHub also has the option to show activity on private repos on your profile without leaking any private repo data. Again, this doesn't prove anything, but it's incredibly odd to see a self-proclaimed developer and hacker have 0 public code on his GitHub and 0 activity on his account. Let's try 2024 and there's nothing. Okay, 2023.
That's super fucking weird.
I see some activity and it's bug reports. He has made 4 bug reports and some feature requests, 0 coding to review for 2023. Okay, let's try 2022. All right, I see 2 green dots. And
2
again,
green
it's 2 bug
dots
reports, no code to check.
I mean, that's crazy that there's like 0 for multiple years, like while he's supposedly a coder. But that's also insane that he has like just 2 dots for like a year he actually did decide to code.
Over. All right, 2021, I'm feeling lucky, and there's nothing. Okay, 2020, he's applying to be a part of the live coders list. All right, last year to check, 2019, and his only activity is he joined January 13, 2019. Man, that was disappointing. Over 7 years of having a GitHub account, he seems to have done 0 public coding, with a grand total of 6 bug reports. Again, this doesn't prove anything.
Oh shit, I missed that. So he's not even, yeah, he's just reporting bugs on other people's code. So oh my god, he's actually codeless. Codeless. Oh my god.
Much, but most professional developers and hackers generally have something on their accounts, even if it's just super minor stuff like their settings for their favorite text editor or application. Jason could have a separate personal account where he does all his work, but the entire thing is just incredibly strange and unusual. Just about every tech YouTuber and streamer has a GitHub account with some random projects scattered around. Anyways, finally with all those positions and GitHub stuff out of the way, let's finally get to Pirate Software, the company,
have been
and
one of
Jason's actual game development start. Let's take a look at his game dev skills, his game dev execution. With all his bragging, I'm sure this is going to be an incredible story with no issues at all. All right, so his first game his studio published was a game called Champions of Breakfast. This was a game roughly built in 8 months in the Game Maker engine. This was the first game that Jason claimed had the unpirateable DRM, where basically the game's Steam achievements acted as a save file. I'll touch on all these points again in just a bit. Keep them in mind while I move to his next and only other game, Heartbound. So Heartbound is the big game Pirate Software is known for, and it has a crazy development history. So according to the wiki, Heartbound's first build was October 7th, 2015. Again, this game was also made in Game Maker. It's a 2D game that's mostly story-driven with extreme similarities to Undertale, and is supposed to have 5 acts or chapters in total. A Kickstarter for the game was launched on February 24th, 2017, roughly a year and a half after work originally started on it. The original goal was to have the game finished and released by December 2017, but shortly after the launch, it was claimed the game was to be fully complete and released in early to mid-2018. A few months later, the goal was once again changed and now was targeting early access on Steam in December 2018. The game did land on Steam in December of 2018. in early access, this release contained a chapter 1 that was complete with a basically near fully done chapter 2. Gee, I hope this doesn't become a trend with delays, failed promises, and shifts in goals. Surely Jason will complete this game in a few more years, right? At the very start of January 2019, they released a patch where in the patch notes it said Animus, the name of chapter 3, was being developed. And this is where everything started truly going to hell. Now, we have a few things we should note here. This is technically the 3rd year of development if we're going off the October 2015 first build date. If we compare this to Undertale, Undertale completed development in 2 years, 7 months, with Toby Fox doing most of the development solo, with some help from Tammy Chang on art. Also,
sorry, I feel like I have to focus in this section. But yeah, Undertale was done very quickly. I also think Undertale is kind of a smaller project. That doesn't excuse like the insane amount of time he's had Thor has spent on fucking Heartbound. Oh my god. This is like freaking me out. All the red barrels. Got a free key for championing at breakfast when assisting Thor with a Steam Deck issue. Maybe I should try exporting the scripts. Yeah, maybe. Is it just like open scripts? Like you can just like see them? Oh my god, dude. What is the game doing? Wait, I'm at a safe distance. Okay, there we go. Okay, hi. There goes all my health. Because I don't know if it's this. Oh shit. I don't know if it's this video because there's 3 parts to the Slop News Network. There's an Undertale mod tool that works with Game Maker games. Oh my god. Oh my god. That would be funny seeing what the actual code is, but then Champions of Breakfast I think was made, it wasn't made exclusively by Thor, it was made by like what, like a half dozen or a dozen people? It just has Thor's name on it. I would like to see his like full Undertale code. Not Undertale, oh my god. His full Heartbound code. Because I know somebody did a review of Undertale's code a few months ago? It was definitely a while ago. And it was like very messy, but it got done. Which is funny because Heartbound's is both messy and not done. Dude, this level's freaking me out. Same artist, I think. Not sure about the music. Yeah. Well, the music is definitely not the same person because I think Toby Fox did all the music for Undertale himself, or at least most of it.
Let's just take a quick look at the How Long to Beat site and see how much content Undertale has. Okay, the main story is 7 hours. With side content, it's roughly 11 hours. A completionist run is 20.5 hours. Okay, pretty good and respectable times for an indie game built in 2 years, 7 months. Heartbound, as of 2025, is still in active development. So let's take a look at how much content time they have. All right, the main story is 2.5 hours. With side content, it's 3 hours, and a completionist run is 3.5 hours.
Wait, it's only 3.5 hours to beat?
For 10 years, currently more than 3 times as long as the Undertale team, and the Pirate Software team has 1 additional team member. Yeah, just think about that for a moment. Anyways, let's start diving through 2019 and Chapter 3 Animus development. For most of 2019, it seems like there was steady progress on Chapter 3 with various patches over the year. So far saying additional content was added. On October 2019...
Wait, so what is this? This is Twitch tracker streams by calendar day. So is this all of his... Is it just some streams in general?
Jason tweeted that roughly 86% of Chapter 3 has now been completed. Then 2 years later,
on Emilio's
Jason tweets that Chapter 3 is now
Animus.
92% done. So over 2 years, he made 8% progress on 1 chapter. 20 years of game dev industry experience, people, and 7 years working at Blizzard.
I could do better than that. What the fuck? I start like a new game project that I don't finish every like 6 months. I can fucking finish Heartbound faster than him. Oh my god. What the hell?
Okay, let's rewind and go back to 2020 and see the Twitch statistics and see what was happening. Okay, the start of 2020 up till March seems like a normal stream schedule. Seems like he caught a cold on March 10th. Then after 9 days, he goes to urgent care and is diagnosed with pneumonia and gets a COVID test. Then we move to March 21st and COVID test results come back and it's negative. No COVID, just pneumonia. Wait, never mind. March 24th, Jason goes back to urgent care. Pneumonia was incorrectly diagnosed and he actually has severe bronchitis. All right, March 30th, he's still sick, but once again confirms negative for COVID. This is really important. All right, a few days later, April 10th, and his cold status is defeated and we're good to go. I know I'm being semi-joking in this section, but I generally don't wish Jason any health issues. All right, so then we move on to April 11th, 2020, and work on Heartbound has restarted. Work is continuing over the next few days. According to tweets, most of April was good, so was most of May 2020. We're still working on Heartbound at this point. Again, nearly all of the May prog is on Heartbound. Then we skip all the way over to July 2020, and work on Heartbound is still progressing. Seemed like there's some trouble.
A bit just dry, flat information, but I understand what he's getting at.
During September, October, and November, with December being fine, and so is January of 2021 being fine. Then we hit February 2021, and then he tweets out he has had COVID for 9 months since the start of February.
Wait, what? I think that makes me leave the most was how the community changed. His fans will parrot anything he says. It's like a cult. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. From like, it's super weird, but I think it's because of all of PirateSoftWare's like weird manipulation tactics he uses whenever he speaks. Because there's a lot actually where, well, one, he's like pretending to be super helpful and he's giving really helpful information about stuff that nobody will ever actually use, which seems to be like a trust gaining thing that he does, where he's like, you guys can trust me, I know all about this thing that you actually don't care about at all. And then I'll also have like a bunch of stuff about how like, guys, I'm not at fault here, I was never at fault here, this is actually like a random bug, or this is actually somebody else's fault, and stuff like that, where he's like, oh yeah, dude, this guy's like flawless, he doesn't have any flaws, nothing is his fault, and he's never caused an issue ever. Not like 100% of cases, but I feel like he only takes responsibility for the smallest of issues.
2020. Wait, what? Jason was only sick in March according to his own tweets at that time period. And there's work from February from earlier. And there's proof he worked during April, May, June, July, and August at the very least, judging by his Twitch stats and his Steam announcements and patches for the game. It seems the only major slowdown of streams and work was 3 months of September, October, and November. Where he lost 9 months of time and had to stop development based on his tweets, I have no idea. I mean,
so also COVID is bad, okay? I've had COVID. It took me out for 10 days straight, going through like 3 or 4 toilet paper rolls because tissues were it was cheaper than tissues. You can still code, especially during like the lighter periods of COVID. So this guy just took like a 9-month vacation for free, essentially. Which is like crazy, fucking insane.
I mean, it's not like he's going to change his story after this, right? Oh wait, there's this old tweet from November 2020 where Jason says he was recovering for nearly 8 months and couldn't daily stream or work. Let's look at the Twitch stats graph again. And his
wait, so he went from 9 months to 8 months. He gained a month back somehow. That's fine. It's like, it's whatever. But like, how do you yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know how you get that sick even from COVID for like 10 months, like almost a year. Especially with what we're gonna see next.
Tweets. He couldn't work during this period, but everything he posts during this time says he was working on Heartbound, and his Twitch stats confirm it. So does Steam. I mean, Jason wouldn't lie and change his story and opinions randomly, right? Especially not to his loyal viewers and Heartbound fans. Let's skim the graphs and see what else we can see. Okay, 2021, minus the months of March, April, May, and June, his streaming is extremely good and consistent, with tons of stream days going past 10 hours and some days hitting 16 hours. 2020, about the same for March, April, May,
and ironically, I would have actually thought that streaming would be more difficult with bronchitis or COVID. It is like, you actually have to use your voice. You have to like wear your throat down every time you stream. So yeah, that's fucked up.
In June and September, with the rest of the months being slightly less consistent, but still more consistent than not. Then we get to 2023, and this is incredibly consistent with the stream averages being 6 to 8 hours per day. Let's start diving back into Jason's tweets. So on June 2023, he catches...
Dude, that's crazy that he like originally didn't lie. He originally was like, oh, I had like severe bronchitis, I'll be out for like a couple weeks, it'll be difficult to do stuff. That's fine. And then he's just like, no, I actually took 9 months away from coding because I had bronchitis / COVID / pneumonia.
Just COVID again. Okay, that seems to match up with his Twitch stats graph. Here, there's a clear week gone. Let's see what Jason says in July.
That was a hell of a thing. That's the second time I've gotten COVID. The first time took 9 months to recover. This one took probably about, I think it was in total about 20 days. So
there's no point in time in 2020, 2021, 2022, or 2023 where he lost 9 months consecutively or stopped development for that period of time. He also in the clip claimed he got COVID twice in total. So that doesn't explain why there's 4 sections of gaps on development, since all these gaps are months apart and he only had COVID twice. Let's skip ahead to June 2024 and see what he says about these 4 years of development.
How long have you been working in this game? Was the coding a solo job? Yeah. Nobody else has touched the code base for Heartbound ever except for me. It's just me. I've been working on it for about 7 years, but I lost 2.5 years to COVID.
Okay, I hope at this point you realize his excuses for not working on Heartbound and his tweets are filled with complete BS.
What? Wait, I gotta hear that again. Play that clip again.
Ever except for me. It's just me. I've been working on it for about 7 years, but I lost 2.5 years to COVID.
Okay,
he lost 2.5 years to COVID? Dude, I'm going Caleb Hammer mode. My voice is... I'm angry, so I'm high-pitched. Jesus. He lost 2.5 years of dev time to COVID. He lost, it looks like, 4? No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll say 4 because it's like half and half. That's like half, so 5.5. Yeah, that's another half. So he lost like 6 months to COVID. Or, well, he didn't code for like 6 months. Probably not due to COVID, since this is all like completely separated.
I hope at this point you realize his excuses for not working on Heartbound and his tweets are filled with complete BS. Once again, he stopped development in 2020, 3 months between September to October, where he had his first COVID period of inactivity. His second COVID was...
Been trying to do some digging on debunking his game running on a smart fridge. Coding Jason made a video, but I don't think it's evidence enough. I didn't look into that. I might look into it for the next stream. Because I saw Chud talk about, like, somebody on Twitter was trying to get a prize from Pirate Software, because Pirate Software was, like, offering a prize. And Pirate Software, like, dodged it. I'll have to look into more information, because I don't think I have, like, a clear view on that. But I kind of doubt most games running on a smart fridge, especially one as poorly coded as Heartbound. It feels like those one, it would run like in like shit. Like you're like getting to the menu and that's like it. I didn't mean to rhyme. And then 2, like I don't know. I guess you could just like Bluetooth it, right? Like a controller or something. I don't know.
Was in June 2023. No matter how you try to arrange this and make sense of it, the numbers don't work out. Especially since we can see his 2023, he basically had a perfect stream schedule. And if we look at 2021 and 2022, there were only 2 gaps where he seems to be affected and they're months apart. Jason basically just decided to quit working on his game sometime during 2020 and has been making random excuses since then on why he hasn't made progress. Chapter 3 Animus, the reason we've been going through this chart started all the way back in January of 2019. If we look at the latest patch in 2025, work on Chapter 3 Animus is still going somehow. We have gone through 6 years of development so far, and Jason hasn't been able to complete 14% of Chapter 3. Seriously, what the hell? Remember, Undertale took 2 years, 7 months to finish the full entire game with 3 times as much content as what Heartbound is currently delivering in 2025, with 10 years of development time under its belt. To put this into even more perspective, let's look at Yandere Dev, a developer notorious for having no clue what he's doing programming-wise.
Let's fucking go. I messaged Seats directly. He's the one who did it and is a mod. No response so far. Wow. I'm trying not to talk out of my ass here. I want to say somebody messaged him and he was directed to Kronos. Good luck. Thank you.
his day responding to email.
Wait, is that the Turkey Tom video? Wait, that's the Turkey Tom video, isn't it? I would love to do a Yandere dev stream. Yandere dev. Tom Dark. It is not. Yandev 10 years of failure. Dude, that entire it was somebody named Savonix is the person who made that Yandere dev video. Chronos, yeah, dude, that was fucking insane. That person needs to, like, okay, if they're real, if they're like actually a lawyer, not just like a fucked up person in Britain, they need to have their fucking license revoked for threatening a guy in America. That's fucking insane. How Chronos threatened private parts. Like, what? Who in their right mind would fucking do something like that? That pisses me the frick off, dude. That's actually insane. That guy's crazy. And then like every single issue that Pirate Software has to like, oh, we need an NDA. Chronos, go get that guy. Like, dude, what the fuck are you thinking? Oh man, it's gross.
Emails and maybe spending a few minutes each day working on his game. He makes more progress and more consistently than Jason does. Seriously, I'm not joking. Here's the updated list for Yandere Dev starting in 2020. Yandere Dev has made more progress
Not sure how he deals with them. I don't know.
In that year alone than Jason has in the last 5. We just might be living in a timeline where Yandere Dev finishes his game before Jason does.
Got to be.
And yes,
I've got to be so fucking bad at this game. I literally cannot see where I'm supposed to go next. It just keeps directing me in like a loop.
Got slightly crazy trying to plot 6 years of analyst development with conflicting tweets and time gaps onto Twitch stats graph.
Oh. Wait, let's hear that last like 30 seconds.
On his game. He makes more progress and more consistently than Jason does. Seriously, I'm not joking. Here's the updated list for Yandere Dev starting in 2020. Yandere Dev has made more progress and more consistently in that year alone than Jason has in the last 5. We just might be living in a timeline where Yandere Dev finishes his game before Jason does. And yes, I might have gone slightly crazy trying to plot 6 years of analyst development with conflicting tweets and time gaps onto Twitch stats graph.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I think that is actually pretty likely that we'll see a Yandev victory here. The thing is, and this is what I'm not sure about, Pirate Software can just, I think, claim that that the game is finished. That Heartbound is finished, because I think it's not considered early access on Steam anymore. I wouldn't consider it, especially with how much he said that it's not done yet. But like, oh my god. It seems like it was a key. You're fucking me. Sometimes what looks like decoration actually hides mechanisms leading further. Fuck this game. Okay. I hope I finish my game before either of them. Okay, what is this video? I actually don't have a timestamp, a date stamp for it. Yeah, that was good. Slop News Network is very fucking good.
Hello.
Oh yeah, this is actually Stop Killing Games content. The industry is lobbying against Stop Killing Games. We're gonna be going back and forth because I want to. Just to keep like a consistent timeline. So that was the previous video was released July 4th or 5th. I think it was the 5th. And this video was released the 7th, but there is a lot of coding to do, and I wanted, or coding stuff to go over, and I really wanted to like spice it up. Probably isn't the right word, but like mix it up. Yeah, that works better.
Ooh, I have a development on the Stop Killing Games campaign. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's recently crossed the 1 million signature mark.
Whoa.
Though I'm assuming nothing. In fact, I've been given stats that there was a previous initiative that had 250,000 of its signatures invalidated. And I could see us setting a new record there. So keep signing. That's the first thing.
So the SKG is very lucky to be sitting at 1.4 million. And honestly, I think I agree with Ross. It needs another like probably 100 or 200,000. It is super cool that it is so fucking high though.
Second, for anyone who doubts how powerful this initiative can be, we now have a lobbying group issuing a statement about us. Do you think if we had no chance of changing things, we would have lobbyists coming out against us? Well, a big one is Video Games Europe. Best I can tell, this is essentially the voice of the industry. So of course they're going to be against any proposal we make, because they're ideologically opposed to us being able to retain our games.
This is so funny, because like, yeah, so many of the devs within here want their games to be preserved, and yet all of their bosses are like, fuck you, no, it's not making enough money. Like, I can't imagine being like a dev at Ubisoft and you worked on the crew for like 5-10 years, and you're working on the crew 2, and it's like, oh, crew 1 just got shut down forever, goodbye to all of that work. Especially stuff that you can't bring over to other games.
I really can't emphasize that enough. Even if every developer in the world was for our proposal, the industry would still be against it. Because it's not developers who make most of the big decisions. It's shareholders and companies worth billions. So with that in mind, let's go through this statement quick by our opposition here. We appreciate the passion of our community. However, the decision to discontinue online services is multifaceted, never taken lightly.
Yeah, I read this earlier.
It must be an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. Well, I have great news for you, Video Games Europe. We are in no way seeking to impede your right to discontinue online services. We are saying you can shut down your games whenever you want. But you have to do that responsibly, in a way that doesn't take back rights you already sold to customers. Yeah, some people forget that companies have to sell you some rights to begin with to even play the games. We understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws. Okay, well, first off, I'm not a lawyer, but this guy at WBS Legal is, and he thinks Ubisoft probably broke the law when it shut down the crew, giving players only 3 months notice.
Yeah, that does seem that does seem pretty likely. That's what I was talking about earlier, where there's probably like a lot more examples than just the crew for games that were shut down without giving due notice.
When they should have given.
Oh, and another thing, I don't think it's on the list tonight. It might be, but fucking Yves Guillemot, the Ubisoft CEO, or I don't even know if he's the CEO. He might just be the owner or something, because I'm pretty sure Ubisoft is like unironic. What the fuck? Ubisoft is unironically run by like the noble house Guillemot. It's not like actually a noble house, but it's run by like a family. And he released a statement where he's basically just repeating exactly what's being said by Video Games Europe here.
More like 2 years. Yeah, you know, Ubisoft, one of your members. So this is probably a false statement out the gate. But you know what? That's not even our issue. So
wait. So we agree. So the German lawyer thinks that they haven't given. Yeah.
I don't even care how much notice you're giving to players. What I care about is that you're not depriving them of their purchase. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure players' data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafe community content would not exist and would leave rights holders liable. Okay, several things here. We have to break it down. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option. So they're saying for a new game concept, which hasn't even been made yet, sometimes there is no way they can add an end-of-life plan to the design?
Yeah,
Their programmers' fingers.
I didn't even think about that. I literally didn't even think about that. Yeah, he's totally right. What the fuck?
Type that? I would love to see them say this to a room full of developers. I think the industry would be surprised how viable it was if the law said you can't take back the limited license rights you already sold to the customer. And this next part. Yes, this part is true. Players will absolutely be getting a rougher and more wild experience playing an unsupported game. I happen to know a thing or two about that. So yes, that's the nature of anything unsupported. That's not a good excuse to destroy what people paid for.
Yeah.
It just means they're on their own. But then they say this part. It would leave rights holders liable. Okay, I am not a lawyer, but my first impression is this strikes me as very not true.
So this is actually one of the things that I disagree with. I mentioned it earlier. Well, I don't disagree with it 100 billion%. It's more of a I am not sure more than a like I think it's not true. Because like Gmod, for example, was using Pokemon, and so Nintendo had to actually file its own shit against Gmod because the actual people running Gmod just like didn't care. They were all like private servers. I think that ended up being a thing where they ended up taking down all the Pokemon stuff anyway. But it was a unsure situation for a little bit. And potentially with the crew, I guess it would be something like if you had a Ferrari in the game and you couldn't get the rights, and you called it Flamingo. You had your Flamingo F1 car. And then you had somebody like make a mod, and it just changed it from Flamingo back to Ferrari, but it's like, you know, the exact same car. Then Ferrari would have its like IP challenged if there's like some fucked up law regarding that, but I don't even think that's true. I just don't know enough about legal stuff.
The way I read this, they're saying they are incapable of writing an end-user license agreement that absolves them of all liability on shutdown. Like planning for end of life, apparently it's just not possible. So me, as a layman, I'm wondering what's the problem with adding a line like this to the EULA? Once our company ends support, we are not responsible for any and all issues that arise from users continuing to operate the game in a discontinued and unsupported state.
Oh, okay, no. Here's a better one. Here's a better example, okay? Because the company that behind it is actually like strict as fuck. Winchester has an extremely strict usage of their like terms and name. The American gun company Winchester. So like, if you use the term Winchester, you have to, I think, buy like an extremely expensive license, or like just not use the name Winchester and call it like Hunt Showdown calls them like Winfield. And so if there was a mod that changed it back to Winchester, that could create some like company trouble, I guess, maybe. But also I think it's a bit of a misreading because this is directed at Ross is directing this at like a EULA for the players, when this would be more so a thing for like any licenses purchased by the company before the game actually comes out.
And absolve ourselves from any and all liability pertaining to its continued use. There's
Although that's
probably
also
a better
something
way to say that.
That's also something that a company could put in its like licenses that it purchases from people. It might just make the license more expensive, and so you just name it something else. You'd name it Winfield, Winchester, whatever.
But you get the idea. They seem to be saying a line like that is just impossible to write. See, I'm puzzled by this because as a consumer, I've seen all kinds of things have support end, but I still get to keep them? I'm just on my own. That's a very common thing. I think we need a lawyer to weigh in on this. So if we take them at their word, it sounds like they're concerned about protecting customers. Okay, but their solution is customers must have their purchase taken away from them forever. We have to destroy our customers' games to protect them from themselves. I normally don't like to use this phrase because it's thrown around too much, but this is beyond nanny state. This is more like Terminator state. Take a game like Star Siege Tribes. For all purposes, that's a game intended to run online with other people, or over a network at the very least.
A good example.
It was discontinued in 2004, but you can still run it today, online. This lobbying group seems to be saying that's a liability. No one should have been permitted to run this game after 2004, and it's a mistake that this game is still allowed to exist because of the risk to consumers. We would have destroyed every last copy of it back in 2004 if we could have. We couldn't then, but we can now. So that's our business model with new games. See, I take that as extremely hostile to both customers and preservation.
It absolutely is,
My question is, why can't we allow customers to continue playing the game, but adding a splash screen saying something like, "Warning, This game is no longer supported. Running it could represent a risk to your security. We assume no liability for what may happen as a result. That strikes me as a reasonable compromise. In addition, many titles are designed from the ground up to be online only. In effect, these proposals would curtail developer choice by making these video games prohibitively expensive to create. Okay, this part is a little more complicated because every game is different. But when I see this,
oh, shit.
I'm thinking of auto manufacturers saying how they can't afford to make cars if they're required to include seatbelts in them. Because no one ever made that argument back in the 60s.
That was a pretty nonsensical line.
However, I think there is a big piece being left out of the discussion here. A whole lot of the complexity and cost of making an online game comes from all the microservices involved. And guess what? We don't need the vast majority of them for an end-of-life build.
That's also true.
I talked to a developer, and he gave me a big list of examples we don't need. Payment processing, anti-cheat, analytics, voice chat. There's so much here that's not necessary to just run the damn game. In fact, I have a quote from him. We are not asking for 98% of the game. We're asking for the 2% of game logic from main gameplay functionality. Except even that's not true. We're not asking for—
Ew, microservice, yeah. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, that's like a super important thing to some companies, but that's also like not something you're using like 99% of the time. Yeah, I don't, it's so weird. It is so fucking weird. It's one of those things that's like, people aren't even asking for that. Like, why do we need a payment processor in a dead game, right? Like, well, how else are you gonna buy your car skins? It's like, well, I don't care about the car skins. I just want to race the fucking cars. Why do I need, like... Also, like, some microservices... Well, I guess these are all, like, online microservices, right? You don't need cloud saves. In fact, I think, like, a lot of, like Steam and GOG do cloud saves for you now, for the most part. That's kind of weird. Actually, that's super weird now that I think about it. Why would you even bring up, like... I guess Ubisoft does use, like, its own cloud services. But it's that stuff you don't need if you're, like, ending a game. It's super weird. This is... Okay, here's my conspiracy theory. I do have, like, a bit of a conspiracy theory about this. I think that Pirate Software's ideas have made it to... whoever the heads are that are, like, writing this shit. Because I don't see how else, like, some of this stuff is getting through. Gone so bad, I doubt most server admins can rebuild the spaghetti they use. That's also true. I don't think he is specifically going out and, like, telling companies, like, hey, this is what it would look like. Maybe he is, but I highly doubt that. But it does seem like they're using a lot of the same logic that he's using. And that is not good. On game. So fucked. Maybe, like, the only thing I could think of is, well, the thing is, it's only for future games too. So it's like so many arguments don't actually even work versus only like a plan for potential future games made exclusively in Europe. Maybe made available in Europe if the EU Commission takes it that far, but I highly doubt that. God. I don't want to die now. That would suck balls. Is there anyone else? And oh my god. Oh my god. That had me jumped up. That mission had me like freaking out. It's only a problem. It's only a problem if it's restaurant. Exactly, and that's the thing is that like they've mentioned it's like everywhere on the not everywhere. It's not like front focused, I don't think, but it's like pretty much like the first or second line down on Stop Killing Games. That's like, this is not retroactive. This is only for future games. It was just so weird. Oh, pardon me. I need that. Like there's a myriad issues of if it's like retroactive, but it's not. It's just straight up not. So it's so weird that everything is interpreting it that it should be.
For that directly, we're asking for the same.
Although in a way, if this does get through with the idea that it is retroactive, maybe that's like a good bargaining chip where it's like, okay, we'll give you what you want. You just can't make it retroactive. And Stop Killing Games just like, oh, yeah, we'll do that. We're so tied to this thing, but we'll give it to you just for the sake of our game coming out. I don't know. If they're like that convinced that it is going to be retroactive, that's their fault. If they can get to the negotiating table with them believing that, that's good. But if it stops them from even getting there, that's shit.
Same rights we already bought for the game, which they can probably fulfill by providing that 2%, as he puts it. So let's cut out all this extra crap before we start talking about how cost prohibitive an end-of-life build is. Now, that does mean designing games so it's easier to turn off all these microservices is a very good idea. And that also means it may not be practical for
Could be an issue with tools and licenses not belonging to the game companies. Yeah, that could potentially be an issue. Although with like a law in place, that could also make things like much more understandable for like the companies that they're purchasing from.
Some existing games. Good thing for the industry, the initiative is not retroactive. And most publishers already have a local test environment for a game, which I'm told is bad practice not to. That's half the battle right there.
Yeah.
So this statement? No, this one is meme level. I do not believe the industry when they say this is so expensive it's not possible. Especially when it's been done many times before. This is seatbelts all over again. And how about getting input from big European developers not on this list, like CD Projekt or Larian? We welcome the opportunity to discuss our position with policymakers. Yeah, I bet you do. And those who have led the European Citizens Initiative in the coming months. Well, they'll probably be glad to know that's actually not me. I am not the official spokesperson for the initiative.
We'll get to that.
I'm ineligible.
There is some controversy with that. Maybe we'll get to that today. Probably not, because it's already like I'm already an hour and a half in. Jesus Christ. Ross got like a legal notice talking about how he's like the leader of Stop Killing Games, but he can't legally be the leader. And Ross is like, yeah, that's fine. I'm not the leader. But he still has to probably go through some kind of legal like battle now.
I'm more of a super promoter. The reason I'm making this video is I want to inoculate people against these bad faith arguments. Remember, everything they're saying here is their excuse for taking away your purchase with no time frame given and destroying it forever. Is this a good enough excuse for you? It isn't for me, especially when they're lying. I think that's worth taking into consideration. And on that note, they also released a longer statement. But do I really need to go over this? Why providing continued support do not work for all games? Oh, we're back to the classics. Okay, so they don't even understand what we're asking for.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna let them figure it out. I've played that song enough already. If I have to explain that a 500th time, I want it to at least be to someone who's not being paid to undermine us. Now, they're going to be lobbying politicians with this, I'm assuming, but we can try and do our part too. If you're super motivated on this and
wasn't said accusation misrepresenting information. Yeah, exactly. Like, this entire thing is just like fucking, like, yeah, we like made up a bunch of shit in our heads about what your movement's actually about. So yeah, now you were never gonna listen to you, and it's like, dude, what the fuck?
And are part of the EU.
It's so
You
deranged.
can contact a member of European Parliament and tell them about the initiative. I've been told you should target ones in the Internal Market and Consumer Protection Committee. There's a link in the description below. Just pick one for your country, and I'm just relaying this next part. I have no idea myself, but I've been told...
Dude, that's what I'm saying. This comes across as so similar to fucking Pirate Software's position. This comes across as like almost the exact same as Pirate Software's position. So it's so weird for this to exist, and like it does. I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's what the fuck? Dude, whoa, what? This gun's insane.
You should maybe avoid PFE and ESN, as they're not known for doing things, is how it was explained to me. And the last bit of advice is a lot of email to them gets buried. So if you want something that stands out, this title was suggested to me. 1 million plus sign European Citizens Initiative. Stop destroying video games. Help us protect gamers' consumer rights. And that's all I have on Video Games Europe lobbying against us. For now, I guess. A quick update to the last video. I didn't mean to scare the hell out of everyone signing. If you made an honest mistake filling out the initiative, it won't count, but don't worry. I don't think you'll be in any trouble with the law. Just don't spoof fake signatures. That's the part that's a big deal. Also, don't sign if you're not voting age. I've said this before, but it's been a while. There's always 50 things to cover.
Dude, what is
Finally,
this
if you
gun?
have made a mistake, you might be able to get it corrected. Get in touch with the official spokesperson, Daniel. His info is on the initiative page. All right, that's it. Keep signing to make sure this happens.
Okay. Ha ha ha! Perfect death time. Yeah, no, it's super freaky. It is super freaky how similar that exact position that they're citing is to Pirate Software's original misinterpretation. Well, current and original misinterpretation of what the position is.
Congratulations.
So we have a. I think this actually goes over the same thing. Wait, does it? Before I get to it, no, it goes over something else.
Congratulations, SKG. Your petition smashed 1 million signatures and is well on its way to be safely padded just in case a bunch are invalidated. You wanted to know if this consumer rights angle could work in your mission to preserve games, and you're gonna find out. But even just getting this far, to the point where the European Commission will take a little peep at it, has drawn out some more significant adversaries. Video Games Europe, a trade association representing the video games industry, has spoken out against the initiative. And who are they? You know, I took a look and they're doing some really good stuff. Apparently they've got a big focus on getting more girls into STEM, which you know in turn is going to feed the games industry. And you know it is absolutely vital that they get a fresh supply of females with these skills, because historically the women working at places like Video Games Europe member Activision Blizzard keep showing up dead under questionable circumstances or complaining about sexual harassment. But of course that was only the ones who survived their employment. And damn, wouldn't you know it,
That's a funny joke. That's a little
also
too edgy.
They had their
my
own
stream.
problems a little while ago, didn't they? The little girls of today definitely need to be better prepared, groomed, if you will, in the non-predatory way to survive in such environments. But speaking of grooming, I couldn't help but notice that another of their members is Roblox. It's easy to say, well, Activision Blizzard didn't admit anything in their settlements, and that was years ago. Riot stuff, that was settled in 2021. But Roblox's issues are a bit more recent, aren't they? And actually directly relevant to your statement on SKG. See, they argue that requiring games to run on private servers would endanger players, away from the watchful eye of the devs and publishers, and their tools and moderation teams. People wouldn't be safe. And that, you know, this could be a brand reputation risk if something bad happens on a private...
Wait, where did he get this? I really wish I could see... So, sometimes Harmful Opinions doesn't put in his videos, like, the actual links to his sources. This is one of the times I would really like to see what this is from. Maybe it is from Video Games Europe and I just missed the page.
Private server. For Video Games Europe member Roblox, that last ship's kinda sailed, hasn't it? But
No CD, Red, or Bethesda on there? No, I don't think they were part of the EU Games thing. That's mostly for, like, what seems to be, like, the highest of high players. That's your, like, quadruple A industry people. And Bethesda's American. So, well... Yeah, Bethesda's only studio is... Well, okay, they have a couple alternate studios, but they're all American. Except for one, which is Quebecois. Quebecer.
What really irks me reading this article is Roblox's response. See, today, the association they're represented by is telling the world if you can't keep people safe adequately, you can't be running a server. But when their member Roblox got called out just a little while ago, Roblox explained, "Nothing we can do, dude. Government needs to get involved." I mean, we'll do what we can, but it's impossible alone. We want to run private servers for a couple friends. Too dangerous. One of their members got kids getting diddled left and right. Hey man, if you really want it to stop, your taxes are going to have to go towards that. It would seem, to me at least, that Video Games Europe members' view on the acceptability of risking illegal conduct hinges entirely on whether they're making money from it or not. In fact, they have so little genuine care for humanity that the #1 issue they could come up with occurring on private servers was cheating. Before you start throwing such stones, maybe you should have a little chat with a representative of your member Roblox about how bad things really are. To be fair, if you look into Video Games Europe, you'll see they have a bunch of stuff about protecting children, but that's just so they can protect loot boxes. You know how industry-run ratings boards exist to stop the government from stepping in and heavy-handedly censoring everything? They did literally the same thing with loot boxes. Peggy added a little label and everything. Look man, as long as parents...
Oh shit, was that? Okay, wait, I actually didn't know that that wasn't stopped. In Europe, at least. Dude, that's crazy. That's fucking insane. Sorry, I'm trying to think of something to say so I'm not literally just like pirating his fucking video. Jesus Christ. It's a bit of a wild ride, for real, for real. Okay, so I unironically thought that the video game loot box thing was like settled in a much better way than I guess it ended up being. I didn't know that was just that purchase. And that is crazy that Roblox is on there of all companies. Also, I didn't think the company was called Roblox. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Also, I thought that I was much more into the video. We're only 3 minutes in.
Parents know their 3-year-old's having its brain destroyed, it's fine. I do agree with Video Games Europe though that it should not be considered gambling. Gambling is far safer and more ethical. Because at least with gambling, they're not allowed to come to you later at any point and delete your winnings for any reason. And looking at their board instead of just members, my impression that this is a group of soulless vampires.
I think Steak has had that happen before, but I'm not entirely so. Well, isn't gambling, especially online, all about deleting your winnings?
Of your wallet is only strengthened. One Kerry Hopkins of Electronic Arts is there. Is that ringing any bells for you? No?
Well, first, we don't call them loot boxes. I think that's...
Well, first, we don't call them... Oh.
Whatever term you wish to apply to them, do you consider them ethical? So what we look at as surprise mechanics.
How about now?
Oh,
I love the analogy
shit.
Kerry used to the...
So the same person on the Stop Killing Games initiative is one of the people who was on the original, like, loot box initiative? Sorry, did I say Stop Killing Games? I meant the EU thing. That's crazy, dude. Maybe I'm a bit too like online focused, but I would not have the same person who is doing your fucking, who already has such a bad rap from things people hate so much, also try to be one of the people who pretends to save video games, or that you're wrong for wanting to save video games in the way you're doing it. Fucked up.
The UK Parliament. She explained, these surprise mechanics are just like a kid buying a Kinder Egg, except for the part, you know, where Kinder isn't allowed to remotely wipe the toy they've won from existence. For a group so deathly afraid of reputational harm, I think they've made some very interesting organizational decisions. Plus, this legislation, if it ever becomes legislation, you might say it's an overreach, it's dangerous, it's unnecessary, could be any number of things. I call that surprise mechanics, and gamers enjoy that quite a lot.
Fuck me,
so,
dude.
I knew this was coming. I wanted it to come. I was excited for it. They're the guys who talk to EU commissioners about
Probably
games.
couldn't get other
Yes, Simon
volunteers.
Rogers
True.
is the name of this person. For real. No, they are not a pirate, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, everyone knew this was coming, but I didn't expect to be so ticked off. And I'm not ticked off just because of what they're saying, but because of who's saying it. So their dream is that this gets seen by the European Commission and they decide to throw it away, with no intervention, legislative or otherwise. To this end, part of their statement lays out the point that consumer protection laws are currently adequate. Robust, even, as they put it. Regarding fair terms, they let everyone know, like, look man, the Unfair Terms Directive prohibits games companies from imposing terms on consumers.
Guys, we can't be unfair. The Unfair Directive makes sure that we're unfair. Oh my god, that's a real thing. Also, another thing that is probably like a decent criticism is that the EU doesn't seem to provide, like, sometimes they're like very stringent about stuff and other times they're like, okay, we have this in law now, who cares?
That significantly imbalance the parties' rights and obligations to the detriment of consumers. And they let us know that everything is fine,
especially
does
if
not
like
need to be looked at
that's
in
just
any way,
allowed.
While representing Ubisoft, who apparently have been having us agree to immediately uninstall their products and destroy all copies of their product in our possession should they stop supporting it. I don't know, as a layman that seems pretty damn whack to me. Sounds like a pretty unfair obligation.
Okay, you know what's actually also super fucked up? There's a very obscure Ubisoft game I play like on occasion because I like it. It's like a little nostalgic thing for me. I play a game called Tom Clancy's End War, made by Ubisoft Shanghai. I don't even think Shanghai's around anymore. You can still like buy it. I don't think you can buy it on Steam, but I think you can buy it on other websites and still like codes for it. You can uninstall it. You can totally install it. There's no support for servers, but it runs like great on like private servers. I think it runs better than it originally did on Ubisoft servers. And it's just like crazy that like, I don't know, they're so like back and forth because like some of their old games you can totally do that. Maybe they just didn't think of that in the EULA yet. I mean, that wasn't like company standard yet.
To me, and sounds like the remote killing of a game to me. You know, if you slowly heat up a frog, they tested this, it just jumps out once it's uncomfortable. But everyone knows that analogy. You bastards will erode and push and take anything you can get away with in ways that consumers can't in return, and then have the balls to imply, look, the law says we can't be unfair, so we weren't being unfair. Were we? I know what you are. You told us what you are last year, or rather Philippe Tremblay did, when he explained there's a fight to...
Oh.
You are last year, or rather Philippe Tremblay...
Ubisoft exec says gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games. I remember that.
He did, when he explained there's a fight to change consumer understanding.
One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. Yo! Based moment? That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD or DVD collection. That is also true. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. That's not deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game. So it's about feeling comfortable with not owning your game. Jesus.
Gamers even feeling a sense of ownership is a roadblock to corporate ambition. Before we even think about legislation, I don't even care if I'm wrong about the law or my judgment of what's considered fair. I ain't a lawyer. Regardless, fuck you. Video Games Europe, you gotta remember, Ubisoft, who let the world know they are trying to psyop consumers. Anything that comes out of your organization should be read as if it's written by a literal demon. You don't like people suggesting that? What are you gonna do? Brick my microphone for inappropriate conduct? You would if you could. Just like how Nintendo, another member of Video Games Europe, wants to be free to brick people's hardware. Dog shit is dog shit is dog shit. You can explain how we got here. You can explain why it might be hard to change. You can explain how current law supports it. You can't pretend it tastes good. And speaking of things that taste like shit, Check out the end of their little message. Video game companies are committed to the preservation of games and their cultural value.
Oh, I can just
members
walk on
regularly donate game copies and hardware to preservation organizations and support museum exhibitions featuring games. Their examples are temporary exhibitions of Battlefield 1 and SimCity 2000. Alright, here you go. Here it is. Proof that EA cares deeply. They also point out in their statement that Embracer has a games archive, which is of course just for physical games. So let me translate this little bit at the end to what it actually means. Video game companies are committed to the total destruction of game preservation past the date at which everything is successfully transferred to service or subscription. See this bit? This is them pretending for the eyes of
actually, one of the things that I
have.
find ironic is that, you know, previously voted worst game ever, or worst company ever, Jesus Christ, EA actually does like a pretty good job at game preservation. You can literally just download Command and well, not all the time, not 100%. Okay, they're like, I think they're like 30% of the way there, which is much better than a lot of other companies. You can just download Command and Conquer off of GitHub. You can literally see the source files and run it and compile it yourself. That's something that I've always found to be kind of insane, because like a company as money grubbing as EA, where they even released fucking the remastered Command and Conquer games. It's just like, yeah, you can just play your game. You can literally just, you know, this game is like really old. You can literally just buy it. You can buy it. You can fucking compile it yourself. You can mod the fuck out of it. It's in C, so you can literally like write your own code for it, change stats you don't like, fix it. It's awesome. I don't even think they're on Video Games Europe. Maybe they are.
Will not understand that they would let their games be preserved. It's just a matter of details. Has to be a serious professional effort and has to not...
Although also, to be fair, that is like the one example I can think of of a game studio. It is literally like one video game ever, and it was like 30 years old by the time they did it. Bethesda's chill as well. They had no issues with the community remake of Daggerfall. Yeah. And they seem to have let like all of the big like purchase replacement mods as well. To just go free, like Open Oblivion and Open Morrowind. I think there's an Open Skyrim out there, but it's not like super done.
Be under circumstances that jeopardize game companies' rights. But of course that circumstance is that it is any game they make the way they want to make them now. They really want total control of modern games, right? The way they're behaving already gives me the impression that they have no intention of ever coming to some sort of self-regulatory compromise. But you get at this point, right, that it's not to control the games. It's not to control their IP. That's just the most effective counter to resistance in this instance. The loss the industry could suffer as a result of mandated end-of-life plans is nothing compared to the loss in progress towards you accepting that you will own nothing and be happy that would accompany that. Consider, because I think this is very important, they are not terrified of losing what they have now. They're terrified of not being able to get what they want next. Apologies if you were blissfully unaware that mainstream gaming is essentially an eternal war against the devil, but don't worry, every time I've dipped my toe into it, it's been really fun. Certainly more fun than your average live service game. And for the people who are interested in this for broader reasons than just game preservation, if you're not just an SKGer, then it is wrong to think for even a second that this is over if this gets totally shot down, or you get a token. Even if PirateSoftWare's paranoid delusion of Europe enslaving game devs came true, it wouldn't be over. This shit's forever. Get comfy, don't burn yourself out. Mostly, it's just gonna be something to watch.
Yeah. Totally true. We're kind of getting into the yeah thing, so if I'm literally just saying yeah over and over again, I'm gonna end this stream after this next video. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize that those members were even on the council. I would like to see where he got that. Maybe, I need to do a bit of my own research for 1 single second, and I might be able to easily find it. They're called Video Games Europe members. Our membership, Video Games Europe. Also, I need to turn on a fan because it's insanely hot right now. So I did find the member page. And let's bring that over. We have a lot of members. ActBliz. Let's look for the biggest names. Bamco, EA, Embracer Group. That's like 30% of the industry right there. There's another like 20%, 10% for Microsoft and Nintendo. Niantic and Netflix are on here. Riot, Roblox, Sega. Ubisoft. And Video Games Poland. Stavarizzi, Video Games Poland, Daphne. Door. Okay, yeah, so CD Projekt Red and Bethesda are not on this list. EA is, but again, EA's actually been pretty good about not cutting off online stuff. I don't think 100% of the time, but I think they've been pretty fair. All things considered. My one thing I wish they would do is that they would fix Dragon Age Origins. That's my one particular game. I love Dragon Age Origins, but it has an issue because it was a console-made game where basically it saves a bunch of data. Sad to see Square on there. Wait, was Squeenix on there? Shit. That does suck. Wait, also, why is in Video Games Europe is Nintendo and Squeenix on there? What the fuck? They literally should not be allowed on the Council of Video Games Europe. And neither should a bunch of these American companies either. Forgot what I was saying. Maybe I finished my point.
Killing games and the initiative goes, Pirate Software is now all but totally irrelevant. People who really matter have stuck their heads up out of the trenches. Credit where it's due, my specific issues with how he did certain things aside, and ignoring some other matters entirely, coming out like he did does require some measure of bravery. He gets 1 pirate coin for that. On a fundamental level, I have some respect for that, but as we've seen, the guy got the opposite of what he wanted, and now he doesn't matter. Not even to the people he stuck his neck out for. Not really. What have they done for him? Has EA even sent him a fruit basket? It's sad. However, Pirate Software continues to act in exactly the way that is catnip to me. To give you a peek behind my channel's curtain, threadbare as it is, when I upload something here, it's normally a result of me seeing something and getting possessed by the spirit of autism that will not let me rest until I've made a video.
That's my stream normally. I will probably make a video out of all of this just because, God, Pirate Software shit does gangbuster views. Holy shit. Yeah. Global companies at this point? Absolutely. But that's just like not the way it should be. Like if you have like a government officiated council, maybe it's not. Maybe it's literally just like a random association of global companies and they just call themselves Video Game Europe. There's probably a shitload of those, to be fair. But like if it's government officiated in any way, especially by like the EU, you cannot have like non-EU companies on there. Like what the fuck are you doing? It's brain breaking me.
Sometimes I run across something that stokes the coals a little bit, but isn't enough to start a fire. A pertinent example being this tweet. There were some things I could say, but I didn't feel strongly enough. Recently though, Pirate's been beefing with a programming YouTuber and his viewers, because the guy took a dump on his...
Wait, did I fuck this up? No, I didn't, because I think that, okay. I was going to watch the coding Jesus video, but I decided not to, because this video covers it anyway. Yeah, it does seem off, yeah.
Programming. Are they right? Is he right? Frankly, I have no idea. I don't know. But I do know that he said this about them. My God, they can't read either. And I love to see a good stone thrown in a glass house. Let's talk about reading, shall we? I like to think I can do it. And a few days ago when he suggested that those who want to understand why he put out his anti-SKG videos in the first place read a blog post, I did, and I recognized two things immediately. That blog post is an infinitely better attack on Stop Killing Games than PirateSoftWare has ever made, and it cannot actually illuminate his motivations for making the videos he did, because it fundamentally contradicts his position. Before we get into the details, let me analogize the problem. Two people can be against something for different reasons. Let's say some crazy guy is trying to get the government to force literally everyone to eat a teaspoonful of peanut butter every week. One guy comes out against it and says, we can't do that because peanut butter doesn't exist. He gets torn apart for being even nuttier than the guy suggesting this change. Later down the road, another guy makes a statement and says, that would kill people. Some of us have allergies. Guy one jumps in and says, see? Now you get why I said that, don't you? But that can't be true, can it? Because this guy doesn't even think peanut butter exists. Just because you're on the same side doesn't mean every argument made is yours as well. In fact, if Mr. Peanut Butter doesn't exist agrees with the allergies argument, I'd say he's sort of acknowledging that what he said before was totally wrong. Ludicrous hypothetical, but you get what I'm saying. Let's bring it back to reality. PirateSoftWare has consistently fear-mongered about impacts. Since April of last year, he has over and over and over again harped on his point that the government...
Yeah, I really like Harmful Opinions. He's actually probably one of my favorite drama guys. He's like, he's pretty funny.
Do things right, that it's a slippery slope, that it's dangerous.
He is autistic and edgy, but I do think he's funny.
Increasing regulation.
This is the real one. I don't want the government.
Oh, who am I kidding? I love edgy stuff. I just don't be edgy on stream.
Stay online forever. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. But when you're talking about a legal setting to force people to do this, you're generally moving in that direction.
A month later, he stated the danger of any government involvement because they're incompetent.
And you want the government to get involved in video games? Vietnam is now a cautionary tale for leave government out of games, please. Please. Please keep the government away from video games. Over there, doing whatever it is that they're doing over there, away from video games.
To be clear, the example he's citing is Vietnam banning Steam. He's not talking about the war. He doesn't think
Wait, Vietnam banned Steam?
Now, there is an exception. In 2023, he did beg for China to regulate video.
Vietnam banned Steam? Wait, what? Did Vietnam ban Steam? Oh, yeah, it is. Due to tax regulation, censorship concerns, and the Vietnamese government desires to promote domestic game development, according to Google AI. Huh. This was like a year ago. Jesus.
Video games.
These are some of the most predatory dog shit business things I've ever seen in games. And it feels weird, but I agree with you, China. Please get rid of this shit.
But he used to work at Blizzard, and I guess old habits die hard. This take is an old outlier, and his recent approach to SKG is clear. Any government in games, bad. More government, more bad. They will do the wrong thing.
If you think the government can manage anything, you haven't been around long enough. Legitimately. That is a terrifying prospect. Letting the government get into video games is a terrible goddamn idea.
Yeah, so at first he's sucking off China for getting like protection rules for children in for gacha games and gambling games. And now he's like, the government should never get involved with any kind of management of games. It's actually deranged.
The apparent implication that they're not already heavily involved. Jump forward to August in the European initiative, and he continues to fearmonger about just what and how much the government will do. He warns of damage if the initiative is considered.
It is incredibly vague and will damage all live service games.
His previous total anti-government position has been abandoned here, as I've gone over before, but he still warns of incompetence and claims precedent will be set.
And it's really easy to say like, oh, you know, that'll get worked out down the line. But we're dealing with government here.
Yeah, dude. That is like... He's so fucking stupid. Anyone with like basic history knowledge completely understands that, yeah, that's like what government does, is work things down the line. The government will usually implement something that's either too lax or too strict, and then later down the line they'll correctify it. And if it's fucked up, they'll try to correctify it again. That's like the entire history of the American fucking government, especially with like African Americans in slavery. God damn. Not even considering like monopolies. That's like so much shit. That's so many illegal concepts in our fucking entire American history. Wait, is Pirate Software American? He's gotta be. Right? He's like from LA. Yeah, no, he is. Oh my god. Like, that statement is so stupid, it made me question his fucking nationality. He prides himself on being rational. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Well, at this point, he is literally just saying anything he can to get people to believe that it's wrong. To believe that Stop Killing Games is wrong. And he's like, look, I think there can be good arguments for why like games could not be preserved. There may be one out there. There may be one, potentially two out there, but like he is definitely like, he's insane. He's making arguments that make him sound like completely brainless.
If we're going to be putting up these types of ideas, specifically in front of government, we need to be calling out the right issues, especially if you don't have precedent set. Because now you're going to be setting precedent on something that doesn't make any sense.
Precedent is not 100%. Precedent changes.
Industry.
Near the end of his first video, he concurs with Ross Scott's statement that law is unclear and states that's exactly why it's so dangerous.
EU law is already unclear on a lot of this practice anyway.
And that's dangerous. If we're going to be setting precedent, which could change the way that law works all the way down the road, then we need to be sending the right message.
I think a fair overview of his commentary is that he mostly lays out the ways he thinks damage could be done, and the foundation of everything he says is that he thinks government involvement is dangerous, they're incompetent, or at least ignorant, and he agrees certain things are unclear, so this would be setting precedent. He's literally said as much. Skip forward to July 4th, he shared...
Yeah, there's totally stuff to consider. But at least in terms of like media, not 100% of the time. There have definitely been like American censorship laws or whatever. There have definitely been times where regulation has been like overbearing or bad. But that's like weird like moral consumer protection. That's like the worst example I can think of. Almost any time whenever it comes to consumer protection from business privileges, it's been a very good thing.
Here's a blog post from someone else who's against Stop Killing Games as a resource to help us understand why he made those videos. Let me read.
It very much is Ross's argument of, car companies arguing against seat belts because they're unsafe or don't work.
Read you something from it. Ross Scott's undefined law delusion.
Not Ross Scott arguing against seatbelts. Fuck. Car companies.
Aspect of this campaign is Ross Scott's central claim that the law wasn't written for this situation and that laws are undefined or contradictory. This is complete nonsense. The laws are not...
Wait, what? Ross Scott's undefined law delusion. The most maddening aspect of this campaign is Ross Scott's central claim that the law wasn't written for this situation and that laws are undefined or contradictory. This is nonsense. No? The laws are not undefined. They're comprehensive and they clearly favor publishers. The EU Information Society Directive explicitly protects DRM systems. Consumer protection laws require disclosure, not indefinite service. They're not fucking doing that. They're not asking for that. They're not asking for indefinite service obligations. Copyright law establishes clear hierarchies where IP protection takes precedence over consumer convenience. That part might be true. I'm not sure. I don't think it is. But I can't think of an example. I'm thinking of an example, but it's not in the right direction. I'm thinking of when the EU decided, like, Apple, no fucking lightning cables anymore, only USB-C, because lightning cables are like way worse, and we're old and we can't figure out how to use more than one cable in our house. But that's like not the same thing at all. But that's what's sticking in my head about this. Is there a situation where consumer convenience took precedence over IP property protection? I don't know, maybe like trains? People are like, we need railroads built because it makes things convenient for consumers. We don't care about the IP of who designed the railroad. I don't know. I can't think of something. There's got to be exceptions.
Undefined. They're comprehensive.
I think that's stupid anyway.
They clearly favor publishers.
But like, I'm trying to find a contradiction.
The entire point of this blog post is that the government is already heavily involved in video games, and as a result of that, the initiative doesn't have a chance of getting anything. For months, Pirate Software has been warning that the government's gonna go crazy, man. If this gets through, everything could be destroyed. But the blog post you've shared and told us is the reason you made your videos is arguing that there is 0% chance of any effect because the government is competent, their involvement is deep, and all that will happen is the European Commission will explain why they're done.
I need to see that again. After I kill.
The reason you made your videos is arguing that there is 0.
When Stop Killing Games, where is he getting this? This is obviously Pirate Software. Where is he getting this? What Stop Killing Games is asking for isn't consumer protection, it's fundamental rewriting of IP property law? Wait, no? It's like that Ross Scott, whenever you first released the Pirate Software video. It's like, no. What? Oh. Every single word of this is just that. It's like, ew, what the fuck are you talking about? Fundamental rewriting of IP law, contract law, and the entire legal hierarchy that governs digital commerce. They want consumer convenience to override copyright protection, which is legally impossible under EU jurisprudence. Million signatures doesn't change legal reality. It just forces the EU Commission to formally explain why these demands contradict existing law. Does it? Wait. I don't think that's true. They have to consider it, but if an EU Commission is like actually unbiased and considers it, then they're not going to believe like anything that Pirate Software or like the EU European Video Games Initiative says. Even with maximum public support, the campaign asks legislators to violate EU treaty obligations? What? Override established legal hierarchies and fundamentally alter the relationship between IP rights and consumer protection. I disagree.
Percent chance of any effect because the government is competent, their involvement is deep, and all that will happen is the European Commission will explain why they're dumb. Thor buddy, you're the guy who was saying peanut butter doesn't exist, pointing months later to someone who totally contradicts you to say, see, that's what I was saying, just because he's on your side. Remember that story from earlier? I was feeling creative today. Funniest part is, of the few things you and this guy do agree with, one of them is that Ross Scott is totally ignorant. But the thing this guy says he's ignorant about is what you agreed with Ross on.
EU law is already unclear on a lot of this practice anyway.
And that's dangerous.
Thor, you shared a blog post that says your position is delusional to explain why you took that position. And now you're telling other people they can't read. It bears repeating. Pirate Software, for months, was sounding the alarm at the impact this will have. On the same day, he posted this blog to explain why he says what he says. He said this.
I hope you get everything you asked for and nothing you wanted. Enjoy your genie, dude. Government's going to want to talk to you about it now.
We love the monkeys.
Wait, that sound, dude. Knowing that Ross Scott got legal shit sent to him recently, him saying that is, I can't help it. That puts shit in my brain.
Pull ahead.
Yep.
The same day he said,
Let's hear that again.
explain why he says what he says, he said this.
I hope you get everything you asked for and nothing you wanted. Enjoy your genie, dude. Government's going to want to talk to you about it now.
Ooh.
We love the monkeys. Pull ahead.
Yep.
The same day he said this, to try to support himself, he linked to a blog that says that view is retarded, and SKG's just gonna get brushed off. Like, we're not talking about some tiny nugget hidden in this guy's post. His opening shot is to explain that SKG is actually countering existing government involvement in games. First argument he makes is the case that existing protection for the use of always online DRM and legal protections against circumvention means SKG's claim to want copyright stuff to stay the same makes their ask impossible. If games are required to be playable without any publisher involvement, they'd have to forego their established right to protect their IP with always online DRM, or be forced to maintain that part at least forever. Way more sophisticated point than anything I've ever heard PirateSoftWare say about it. Closest I've heard is his bumblefuck point about preventing monetization.
Yeah, that's all true. I don't have
servers.
anything to say
And
about
while
that.
the author
Yeah.
of the blog argues that this means it would never get anywhere legally, the alternative will be that the initiative leads to legislative change that weakens government protection of the right to use always online DRM to protect their intellectual property by at least carving out a little exception. You know, if you're going to destroy the damn game, you have to let go of that bit, which I
feel gross for not leaving that community sooner. I don't think it's the community is not the person who owns it, right? And you left whenever it felt bad. Whenever it definitely started feeling like everybody is a clone of the person who owns it, right? I don't think it's that bad. I think there's also like plenty of communities where the person leading it is good, but the community is bad, or the community is good and the person leading it is bad. I don't never be harsh on yourself or something like that, unless it's like a crazy fucking community. Oh my god, there's this Gaming for Hope dude, they're completely off track. There's this Gaming for Hope dude who I think like he like joined the KKK and like didn't realize how bad it was. It's like, dude, it's the fucking KKK. I might have to retract that one, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I'll look into it after.
I don't know, sounds incredibly based to me. Maybe SKG should have been saying they wanted change to copyright law. There's some statements in that blog post, particularly about ownership and licenses, that I think can be challenged, but I ain't a lawyer. Though I should point out before we move on that the author of this blog doesn't appear to be either, and he's spent a few years working at Yuzu, a games company best known for flooding the world with dog shit. So while the arguments in form are much better than PirateSoftware's, I don't have a great deal of faith in the accuracy of the legal analysis underpinning them. Additionally, Mr. I used to work at Yuzu likes to do a lot of weaseling. He'll tell us that the regulatory framework already addresses the actual problems. He tells us the movement is asking for rights that don't exist while ignoring the extensive protection.
Wait, the movement is essentially asking for rights that don't exist while ignoring the extensive protections that already do? It's like talking about stuff that nobody even cares about, right? We're not even talking about the protections for people for gambling or loot boxes. We're talking about fucking video game stuff. We're talking about video games being preserved. And yeah, it doesn't exist yet. That's the problem.
Protections that already do. Oh, so when you said it was extensive and comprehensive, you meant within the boundaries of what you think should be addressed. Okay, buddy. We all see what you've done. And I am certainly not sympathetic to the take of, no, you shouldn't be fighting this. They already won before you. They ran to government first, and now they're allowed to put shock collars on you and delete all your stuff. Nah, with that out of the way, we've got one last silly morsel to look at. I was shown that a screen cap from your Discord was posted on Kiwi Farms. Now, I can't go and verify for myself because apparently the SKG section of PirateSoftware's Discord has been nuked. Feel free to tell me this is fake. But supposedly,
shit,
in response
was
to
it?
someone saying the VGE statement more or less paraphrased Thor's video, he said, yep, because I know what I'm talking about, and always have. So I assume you must have read the statement. Did you like the part where they argued that private servers are bad because they're a barrier to government involvement? Yeah, that's basically what you were saying, right?
Please keep the government away from video games. over there doing whatever it is that they're doing over there away from video games.
Did you read the whole thing, or did you just skim for the bits that do line up with you? Did you consider as well who this is coming from? I get it. I like to isolate little bits and pieces to focus on, but when you do that, you got to make sure.
This game is actually making me go mad. I'm a little frustrated with like the continuity. I know that it's like going through memories and shit, but like, come on. I literally just took an elevator to somewhere and I'm in a completely different area. It's very Cthulhuian. Oh my god. I'm glad to be almost done with this. I just want to say I finished this fucking game.
Sure you're aware of the big picture so you don't end up looking like a jackass. Like you said.
It is not a difficult thing to not put your whole ass in your mouth live on the internet.
Yeah, man, I just hate government involvement in games. By the way, the group that exists to enmesh the industry with government and shape government involvement but certainly not get rid of it, begs for it even if it involves getting public funding. They said some of the things I said, so, as you can see, I'm never wrong.
Okay.
Anything exciting
So
happen?
that was that video. Oh, hey. This is what I normally watch. I'm fucking stupid. Okay. So unless this is a long video, we might call it. I'm going to say this is like less than 10 minutes, but I'm pretty sure this is...
All right, let's start diving into the DRM
Yeah.
analysis.
This is another 30-minute video, so I think I'm going to call it here. Oh, that was fun. I thought it was. Maybe we'll do a Gaming for Hope stream. Have a good one. You too. Yeah. I thought that was pretty epic. I am a bit brain dead. I've had a day. But yeah. Pirate Software is crazy. Got a bunch more contradictions. Definitely milking roach milk, you know, making those roach bars. Jesus. There's definitely been like a meta. Not a meta, but there's been a shift in the meta, guys. It feels like almost it's hard to get away from Pirate Software to a degree, and I realize that I'm kind of contributing to that. But I really wanted to focus on code because that's something I can talk about, and stop killing games because I don't want my games to die. I like my MMOs. I like my good MMOs. And I really wish it was getting valid criticism. I don't know. I definitely feel like there's more like conceptual or philosophical debates that can be had about like the continuance of art if it's bad art. And that's just not happening. And it's all about like this completely mistaken, stupid fucking view that Ross Scott wants, or from Pirate Software, that Ross Scott wants to have games go on in perpetuity on online official servers. And it's so stupid. Watch him when he had 300 viewers. Help turn him into the monster we have today. No, Seth, no. Well, the thing is, I don't think anybody could have predicted Pirate Software having that opinion. I don't think anyone could have, like, known that he would have been anti-games preservation to the point where he's, like, outright lying about something. That seems to have like no drawbacks. Games get developed better because they're not made for only online. Games get to live longer because they're made in a way to aid in their own preservation. They get to be sold for longer because now potentially people can sell a game that was intended to be only online, but maybe sell it for $10-15 because it's functional in an offline state. And this seems like a plus for everyone involved, and yet Pirate Software apparently gave his opinion to Video Games Europe. I mean, honestly, like, I don't know. My conspiracy theory seems to be more and more accurate. It might literally just be a conspiracy theory, but I feel like they ripped so much of his argument off that it seems so close. Wonder if he sees it as competition since he didn't think of it first. Maybe he's thinking like, oh my god, this is such like a good video game based related thing, but because I'm not the king of it, it has to perish. Oh my god, yeah, totally. I just can't think of like another initiative that he's done that for though. Although I guess I don't know of any others that he's even talked about. Especially in like the video game related sphere. He's the kind of guy that thrives off of being the smartest in the room. Absolutely. And it's so funny that the only way that he's the smartest person in the room is if he's by himself. That's very mean. But like it seems like any time that he's had a job, he's been in a group situation where he's never been the smartest person in the room, and now he gets to be on Twitch and YouTube and streaming, being the king. He's the leader. He's the chief who knows so much about the world and video games and coding. Because he's like, you know, he's not edgy. He doesn't do anything super... He actually does do a lot of stuff super weird behind the scenes, but in front of people, he's not super weird. And so the entire internet sees him. Yeah, he's like appealing to the most common person who has no idea about like video game stuff or has like some idea and it's like, oh, this guy's like really motivational and he's like really cool. And that's like a useful type of person, right? That's useful to be motivated. I got motivated to make my game because of Pirate Software. But then it turns out he like it's very much like a fuck, what's the name? Wizard of Oz thing where it's like, oh, you know, there's a grand machination, there's a giant head that's talking down, giving ways of life to everybody, is actually like an old man behind the curtain who's never lived a day in his life. That's very much what it feels like. Because even all of his trips. Wait. No, I'd have to look it up. I'd have to see. No, they don't line up. Never mind. I was thinking of the furry chat messages to see if they lined up with his time at SecuriCon, but I don't think they do. I think that was like the security thing was way before he did Heartbound. All the convention stuff. But yeah, the internet sees him now. It was kind of a matter of time with how public he is. This is one of the issues that I think a lot of people will have and do have is whenever they're so public with their life due to normal job stuff, like LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn requires you to post a lot of information about yourself or encourages you to. People can just go like look that up, especially if you put your own name out there. And they can see like, oh, you were never a coder. You've never like really coded besides maybe some security stuff that you were part of a team for. Like, that's fucking crazy. Okay. I'm gonna go. It has hit a little past midnight, so everybody have a wonderful evening, wonderful night. And I'll see you all Thursday for a continuance of Pirate Software. Alright.